Hello and welcome everybody to the Sonoma Raceway for Output Racing League, the Autism Awareness 100. It should be an absolutely awesome day of racing here on the road course as we see some of the camera angles. See the guys over there getting ready to get a pit party started. So let's go to our cameras here. So we can have a look at what we're going to get. Of course, Jonathan Hernandez leading this one away with Zach Floyd. Got Tyler Gary out there and Zach Floyd, Andrew Perkins, Darren Sanchez, Chris Champo's up in there. And we're off and racing. Hernandez with the early jump. This will be the one and only pit party that you'll see here. Otherwise, they just take too long to organize. Oh, and we've already got one off. I'm pretty sure that was a 73 of Andrew Perkins. Into the fence he goes. Back up to the front. Jonathan Hernandez currently leading the way over Tyler Gary. And these guys look like they're going to be duking it out for most of the race here today. Come into the double apex hairpin here at the end of the drag strip. Some interesting camera angles here in this camera pack. This is my first time using this camera pack, so it should be pretty alright. Let's just focus on crashes a little bit here. See what's going on in the middle of the pack where it's a very busy pack indeed. There's Joshua Durham on screen. Got Brian Harris, Travis Massier, Brandon Bennett. Very busy little pack going on here. Is Brandon Bennett trying to make a move on the 72 of Josh Durham. Not going to be able to get it. Josh with a little bit more momentum on that outside line. As Brian Harris just gets a little bit into the wall there. Now we don't have the new damage model anymore. That was taken away from us because they didn't quite have it done up correctly. So last week we had the new damage model, this week we do not. As we still see Brian Harris now defending from the 13 of Travis Massier, but he's running wide. Oh! The 21 of Chambliss has just taken out Brian Pizzakemi, and one of the closest shots you'll ever see of something like that going on. The Pizzakemi here just getting spun back around. Now on screen we've got the 38 of Thomas Harmon. Hasn't really put down a solid lap yet. Down in 20th overall with a 147.477. Just behind him, Joshua Durham in that 72 car. Oh, and the 12 of Matt Burgess has gone around. Brandon Bennett's gone around as well. Saw another car off in the background there going around. I think that might have been Gary Waterworth. As Thomas Harmon and Josh Durham are now battling it out. Thomas Harmon did improve his position on that lap. He gained 7 seconds and has now done a 140.664. Josh Durham sitting in 7th in practice at the moment, just sitting right up on his tail. Not going to let him get away too quickly. As they come down now to the end of the drag strip. Thomas still holding off Josh. This might be quite the titanic battle between these two throughout the race. Just have to wait and see how they get on after qualifying. And I am actually a little bit behind the action because I was still in replay mode. So I'm an idiot. Looking at Brian Chambliss now, he's got Harris in front of him and Chris Champeau behind. I think that was Andrew Perkins, maybe, who was off in the weeds there. No, it wasn't. Perkins is still on track, just up ahead of these guys. But Champeau is definitely pouring all the pressure on the back of Chambliss here. Chambliss runs wide coming out of the carousel. That is all that Champeau needed to get around him. Back to Thomas and Josh now. Oh, Thomas running wide. Still holding on to his position in front of Joshua. These guys are effectively 4th and 5th in the pit party. I think. Either that or they're 3rd and 4th. It's just interesting to watch these cars going around the track. Let's go catch up with our top time setter at the moment, Mr. Jonathan Hernandez. The top time of a 1:37.121. His last lap was a 1:40.344. Coming through the carousel, you can see he's cool, calm, and collected here. He's not pushing the car too much. Just taking it nice and easy. And I think I might have to change this camera angle right here. I'll have to do it later though. As Jonathan Hernandez coming down to the final hairpin, which leads into the final corner. Inside of this track, formerly known as Gilligan's Island. They used to use it for pit stops back in the day. But let's go and spend a lap on board with Mr. Hernandez here for this lap. You hear that very gentle on the throttle. In fact, he was off of it for most of that. Taking the S's in second. Taking this one in first. Coming up to the carousel now. What does he do? Keeps it in second. And I am an idiot again. So that was a lap and a little bit on Jonathan Hernandez's car there. Very nicely done. This is the Autism Awareness 100 here from the Sonoma Raceway. There is the 50 of Christian Budd making a move on Mark Pentecoff there, making it look very easy. Is Brandon Bennett now making his way through the final section of S's. Jonathan Hernandez right behind him. At that time that Hernandez set, only 0.165 faster than Christian Budd. There's the 90 of Michael Sturgill right on the tail of the 24 car now. Of course, the 24 is today's sponsor, the Autism Awareness 24 of Mr. Frank Isaacson. Sturgill trying to look for any way around Frank that he can. Frank's just taking the natural racing line here. He's going to make Sturgill work for it. Sturgill stepping out sideways every now and then as well. Oh, and Frank's off in the weeds. That's what Sturgill needed to get around him. Now we see the 9 car of Matt Horton. Oh, there's a 5 of, the 3, sorry, of Brian Harris getting passed by Christian Budd in the 50. Oh, Tyler Gary has gotten it wrong. See what happened to Tyler there. Not too often we see Tyler getting it wrong. Oh, off into the weeds coming out of the carousel. And just could not gather it up from there. As now we see Gary Waterworth doing the same thing coming out of the final S's. Oh, Ashton Schleiss getting it wrong in the first S's. Now we're back on to Jonathan Hernandez. And now back on to Ashton. Oh, there's the 21 of Brian Chambliss going around in the final hairpin. There's Chris Champeau. Looking cool, calm and collected at the moment. He's got Jonathan Hernandez just up the road in front of him. Back on Ashton Schleiss now. Now we're set to focus on crashes here for practice. I want to stress that point right now. We're focused on crashes. So these are the people that iRacing thinks will crash. As we see the one of Brandon Bennett running wide there, coming into the section that leads to the carousel. Chris Champeau right on the bumper of Jonathan Hernandez now. Hernandez running a little bit wide there to allow Chris through. And Hernandez is practicing a long run here. He's got 11 lap old tyres. Chris Champeau only on his third lap with these tyres. As we have 8 minutes left to go in this practice session before we head on into qualifying. And the 68 of Ashton Schleiss trying to take the jump and gets caught in the tyre barrier. There's Sturgill and Champeau now. Chris right up on the back of Michael Sturgill's car. New look car for Chris here too. Looks very nice. As now we see the 13 of Travis Massio trying to make an inside pass. The 5 of Mark Penticuff in the final section of the S's there before the final hairpin. Unable to get it done. And Chris using all the track and more to try and catch up to Sturgill here. Oh, and Sturgill getting it sideways. That allowed Chris Champeau to get through. As there goes the 78 of Brian Pizzicami around. Sorry for any yelling you might hear in the background. Oh, that's not a place that Thomas Harmon would have wanted to have ended up. You see the 3 car there. Brian Harris. Got the 78 of Brian Pizzicami right on his tail. The Brian Harris currently in the 22 position, which is effectively 21 because my time doesn't count, and Pizzicami currently up into 12th. Oh, and Harris goes around, gets on the grass on the exit of the carousel and spits it out to the other side of the track. Now we're looking at Andrew Perkins, who has the 38 of Thomas Harmon right behind him. Just in front of these guys is Zach Floyd in the 28 car. And just behind is Travis Massier in the 13. Actually, no, that's Michael Sturgill in the 90. And I can hear someone doing a burnout as Thomas lets Sturgill go past. Not sure who it was doing the burnout. I can see in the background there was the 4 of Jaron Sanchez going around. And I think he pulled the ripcord and he's gone back to the pits. Trying to look for where Mr. Sanchez is in the standings. And he is currently 9th. Because now we have only 3 minutes left of practice before we go into qualifying here. Christian Budd currently sits on top of the totem pole with a 136.763. 0.358 better than Jonathan Hernandez's 37.121. As Sturgill now puts some pressure onto Andrew Perkins. Evan Rice just up the track in front of these guys. Perkins runs wide. Sturgill gets loose. Perkins is the victor in that scenario. Chris Champo on screen now with Gary Waterworth just behind him. Thomas Harmon just a little bit up the road as well. And it looks like Waterworth is going to practice a pit entry. That was nicely done indeed. Now we got Kyle Kraus going around. That was in the first section of the track. Oh, the 9 and the 13 both going off track there. Colton Salick in the 10 and the 13 of Travis Massier.
I made it!
The 13 Travis Massier back on screen. Oh, getting very loose in front of Christian Budd there. And Hernandez has taken back top spot with a 136.506.257 clear of Christian Budd. And Champo just mowed down Matt Horton and Thomas Harmon. As we have about 40 seconds left, we're going to go to a commercial break, guys. When we come back after qualifying, we'll be setting the grid, so make sure you stay tuned for that. Alright, we're back. We've only got about 10 seconds left in qualifying here, so I thought we'd come back so we can see some of the camera shots of this beautiful countryside here in California for Sonoma, as the qualifying timer has just ticked over. So we're going to be starting to get people on the grid here very shortly to see the pace cars in position. Do a full lap of pacing before we go green. But your pole sitter for this race will be the 50 car of Christian Budd. Starting out of P2 is going to be Jonathan Hernandez in the 88 car. A 136.856 for Christian. 137.294 for Jonathan. Starting out of P3 will be the 26 car of Tyler Gary. On his outside will be the 6 of Evan Rice. Gary Waterworth in the 22 will be starting out of 5th position with the 10, but the 9 on track of Colton Salick starting out of P6. The 28 car of Zach Floyd will be out of 7th with the 2 of Chris Champeau starting out of 8th. Thomas Harmon in the 38 car will be out of 9th, and Michael Sturgill will be starting this one out of P10. Brian Chambliss will be from 11th in the 21 with Kyle Kraus out of 12th in the 60. Frank Isaacson in the 24 out of 13th with Ashton Schleiss in the 68 out of 14th. Matt Burgess will be out of 15th in the 12 car, and Justin Botello will be out of 16th. First car to not lay down a lap. Now, I'm going to be generous here. I'm going to say that everyone who laid down a lap, even though some of these laps are terrible, will be eligible for hard charger. 17th will be the 3 of Brian Harris, and on his outside will be the 1 car of Brandon Bennett. Brian Pizzakemi will be out of the 19th position, and then on his outside will be the 27 car of Jonathan Bell. Then we're going to have Matt Horton out of 21st and Travis Massier out of 22nd. Mark Penticup will be out of 23rd with Jaron Sanchez on his outside. Joshua Durham and Andrew Perkins will bring up the final row as we get ready to send these guys off for 60 minutes of shenanigans here at the Sonoma Raceway. This is the Autism Awareness 100. We were originally planning on running 40 laps, but we decided to cut that down to 60 minutes. That's just to make it easier on the drivers. Everyone's going to start getting formed up here now. We'll go through the back area of S's. A couple of guys are still single filed out. Matt Horton electing to start from the pits. Could be a wise decision there for the driver of the 9. The first start is on green. All the restarts will be on the leader. Lane choice is on the line. The pace car is in. And the pace is starting to quicken. we're off and racing for the Autism Awareness 100 here from the Sonoma Raceway in California. And already Christian Budd off to a great start, securing that first position over the 88 of Jonathan Hernandez, who got a little bit loose coming through that first set of S's. Tyler Gary up on his inside, hip and shoulders him out of the way. Evan Rice now stuck on the outside of Hernandez. And he's just about going to get that position away. Not quite. Hernandez just a little bit stronger there on the inside. The 21 car of Chambliss went around. The 9 of Colton Salick, the 10 in the standings, is now on the inside of Hernandez. Hernandez is falling like a stone. Gary Waterworth is up there as well, trying to take advantage of the situation. Salick allowing the 88 through, who gets a little bit of a lock up there, but continues going regardless. But Christian Budd is in control of this race, and he has amassed himself a little bit of a lead here over Tyler Gary. To the tune of about 2 seconds already. As we saw the last of the stragglers coming through the final sector there. The car's going to come across the line, and we're going to get a true representation of where everybody is at. So it's Christian Budd from Tyler Gary, Evan Rice, Jonathan Hernandez slipped back to 4th, Colton Salick in 5th, Waterworth P6, Zach Floyd in 7th, Thomas Harmon 8th, Chris Champo 9th, Sturgill in 10th. So there you go, guys. That is the order as they run at the moment. And because no one wants to see a guy just running away on a road course, we're going to focus on crashes and see where the action is at. We are on the 90 car of Michael Sturgill, who is stuck in front of Justin Botello and behind Ashton Schleiss. Jabo making his way up to 12th. Oh, and Schleiss getting very loose there. That allowed both Jabo and Sturgill to get around him. Sturgill jumping off the curb there on the inside. That's put Jabo very wide, but Jabo is still sitting there on the outside trying to take the advantage of the momentum. And he gets that move made. Jabo started in 16th, already worked his way up into the top 10 now. Very quickly indeed. But it wasn't without a little bit of a heart-stopping moment there. Both with Ashton Schleiss and with Michael Sturgill. Let's go back to focus on crashes to see where the action's at. Sturgill runs wide. That's going to allow Schleiss through, but Schleiss very loose there coming out of the hairpin. Sturgill only losing the 1 position. Not succumbing to Kyle Kraus as well. And it looks like we've already lost the 2 of Chris Champo. I'll have to go back and have a look at what's happened to Chris here. Oh, and he has been buried into a tyre barrier. Just gets it a little bit wrong there coming into this final sector of S's. And once you're on the dirt, you are not going to stop. He locks it up anyway. And that's just going to carry him all the way into that wall and buried. So that is unfortunate for Chris. As we're going to go back to find some action. And action we got is Sturgill and Schleiss are battling it out again. And now we go up to have a look at Evan Rice. Back down now to the 12 of Matt Burgess, who's trying to battle his way on the outside of the 1 of Brandon Bennett. It's not going to work out for him this time. In fact, here comes the 78 of Brian Pizzakemi on his inside. Pizzakemi with a great run through that section. And I think that was Ashton Schleiss off the track. I think. Either that was Brandon. It was Schleiss. What is going on with Ashton Schleiss right now? He went through underneath our camera position, in through the grass. Although you can't really call it grass with how brown it is, it's all just dirt at this moment. Back to focusing on crashes now, and we're on the 6 of Evan Rice. Sitting in third right now, Tyler Gary in front of him, and Jonathan Hernandez right behind. These guys are a tight little battle at the moment. See what they can do here. The smart thing for Evan Rice to do right now is just sit in behind Tyler, see where he's strong, see where he's weak, try to capitalize on those weak points. At the moment they look fairly stoic in their positioning here. Not much is going to change. There's not too many overtaking opportunities at this track. Down the end of the drag strip is definitely one of them. This is another coming into the final hairpin. Evan Rice was just looking. He's not going to go for it, but he was looking. Also might have been a half-hearted attempt at defense against Hernandez. Speaking of Hernandez, we're looking at him now, sitting back there in fourth. Started out of second and just dropped from there on the start. As now we see possibly a move. No, not quite. Now we're looking at Colton Salick. The Evan Rice starting to look very racy there behind Tyler Gary. Is he going to try and go for a move in the carousel? I didn't think he would, but maybe he's just trying to do it as a way of putting Tyler off. If you can't beat them on track, mind punt them. And I think that is what Evan Rice is trying to do here. We get a very zoomed in shot of his car. But now he's lost a little bit of time here to Tyler. He's going to want to try and get that back as Hernandez goes and kills that poor cone at the end of the pit lane. And we almost saw a move on there in the hairpin. Tyler left the door open just enough for Evan to stick his nose up there very slightly. They almost had contact. And according to my software here, this is going to be about a 37 lap race. But that doesn't take into account pit stops yet. So we're just going to be under the originally prescribed 40 lap period. And if we get a caution at any point in this race, that's going to definitely change how long this race will go for as well. We only have local yellows set on the server, but we will throw a safety car if we need to. It depends on the severity of the crash, how many people are involved, stuff like that. Oh, it's Colton Salick in the 10 car. Got it all kinds of wrong coming out of the final section of S's. Gary Waterworth and Zach Floyd both getting around him. In fact, no, it was just Waterworth getting around him, so he's going to be in 5th. P6, sorry. He was in 5th. And it looks like we've also got a couple of cars under threat of going a lap down. Here is the 2 of Chris Champeau. Missing his hood and a very dented in front end. He's only got about 8.5 seconds till Christian Budd, who is behind him, catches up. In fact, he's losing a lot of time in the carousel. Gathers it back up on the exit though. And unfortunately, that is a very sickly looking car right there. There's Evan Rice still stuck in this titanic battle between Tyler and Jonathan. In fact, let's ride on board with Evan as he's going to try and battle up to the back of the 26 of Tyler Gary here. Oh, and Tyler has gone around. The gyrocam operator a little bit slow on that one. Tyler has got it back around facing forward again. But that has just severely affected his race. He's down in 9th right now. And that is going to be Evan Rice up into P2. Looks like Jonathan Hernandez might have lost a little bit of time there as well. Let's go back to focus on crashes, see where we end up. We're still on these two, Evan Rice and Jonathan Hernandez. Gary Waterworth, in only his 2nd race here with the league, doing very well, sitting up in 4th at the moment. As Jonathan Hernandez is quite quickly becoming a cone killer here as these drivers catch up to the 2 of Chris Champeau, who's just going to let everyone by. Very smart move there for Chris Champeau. Now we're on the 13 of Travis Massia. Got Matt Horton in front of him and Brandon Bennett behind him. Travis in 20th. And Brandon Bennett looking very racy here. Let's jump on board with him while he's behind the 13 car. Oh, Travis getting a little bit loose there, coming out of the hairpin. But also Brandon Bennett just unable to get the power down. You can hear the tyres scrubbing as he's trying to get slowed up for the first of the S's. You see the driver here, he's working very hard indeed. Don't expect him to give me a wave while he's racing at a road course. At ovals I expect everyone to wave, but they never do. You hear how much he was waiting on the throttle there in the carousel. Just absolutely crazy. There's the 9 of Matt Horton just up ahead as well. Oh, and Travis made a mistake. He got loose at the end of the drag strip there. Brandon Bennett unable to capitalize. The gyro cam operator needs a little bit more practice. Here we go. Will we see him move on in the hairpin? He's going for it. And there goes the 13 of Travis Massia. Down into 21st. Or Brandon Bennett moves himself up into 20th. Now we're looking at the 12 and the 72. There's Matt Burgess and Joshua Durham. Matt conceding position to Joshua. Matt struggling a little bit here today. Usually one of our front runners, but not able to mix it with the best here on the road course. Now, to be fair, this is a very difficult track to run on. It's very slick track surface, and the guy is just unable to get her done. See Jaron Sanchez just up behind Matt as well. Matt and Jaron have a storied history together, racing and wrecking each other. We'll have to see how that plays out for them here today, as we go back to focusing on crashes again. And, oh, Jonathan Hernandez getting a little bit loose, coming out of the carousel. Gary Waterworth right on his tail. Is he going to try and go for a move? Not going to be able to at the end of the drag strip. We don't normally see any mistakes out of the 88 car. But we definitely saw one that time. You can tell these guys are pushing very hard. They're on the absolute limit as the 5 of Mark Pentecoff goes off track just in front of these guys. Pulls out wide to allow them through, but I think he did hold up Evan Rice there a little bit. As Tyler Gary is actually in the pits right now. In fact, I think he is out of the race altogether. See if we can see what happened to Tyler here. Let's go previous lap. And we'll see if we can see what happened to him here. He was running in 9th. All's good in the carousel. Sitting up behind Thomas Harmon there, who was in 8th. Gets into the grass, coming out of the carousel. Still all is good. And just gone. Okay. So that is definitely a weird one indeed. As now we're looking just about everywhere. And it looks like we're going to settle on Sturgill and Chambliss here. Sturgill in 9th, Chambliss in 10th. Sturgill very loose coming out of the S's. Holding onto it into that first hairpin before we come down to the carousel. These guys are pushing just maybe a little bit too hard there. They're burning up their rear tyres a lot. Every single time they get on the gas too hard, they are burning up their rear tyres. Every time they step sideways, everything. But it's not easy to manage your throttle around here. In fact, it is quite difficult. But Sturgill still holding on to that 9th position in front of Chambliss at the moment. We're going to focus on crashes here again, see where we end up after the camera gets off these two. And we do have a battle. It's the 60 car getting back around the 12 of Matt Burgess. Matt fighting very hard with Kyle Kraus here. A little bit of contact in the hairpin. And that's allowed the 4 of Jaron Sanchez to catch up. Right on board with Jaron while we watch this battle unfold in front. And it looks like Matt Burgess driving very hard to try and catch up to Kyle. Kyle with a little bit of a lock up there in that first little hairpin. Oh, everyone's getting loose. And the 12 of Matt Burgess off in the weeds. Gyro came up the radar, got it eventually. Kyle Kraus also with a little bit of a hippie shake there going into the carousel. Jaron Sanchez will be well chuffed with the positional change. League owner and operator Jaron Sanchez in the 4 car. Now up into P16, Matt Burgess falling back behind Travis Massier in the 13 car. So that's going to put Matt all the way back into 18th after that one mistake at the carousel. As we are going to go back to focusing on crashes now. And we're back on the 60. We're back on this battle for 3rd between Jonathan Hernandez and the 12 of Gary Waterworth. Hernandez has been battling it out with Waterworth here for quite a few laps. Waterworth this time, the cone killer. And is he going to try and go for a move? Not quite able to. He files back in behind Hernandez here. At least the rear bumper cam operator knows what he's doing. We've got to fire that gyro cam operator. As here comes Waterworth. I said this is only Gary's second race with the league. The 22 car in the standings is also a 12 car on track. They come through the carousel. Waterworth using all of the track. And now it's time for him to get up close and personal as we head into the slow sections. Oh, a lot of curb there for Waterworth. What a great view. I think that would have looked pretty cool from the outside, but it's just not as good as looking at it from the back of the car in front. As that actually lost Waterworth a lot of time before they got into the S's here. Into the final hairpin. No cones were killed this time. Waterworth closing right back in on Hernandez. These guys are still fighting it out pretty hard. The lap times haven't suffered all too much, although I say that they're about 4 seconds slower than when they had fresh tyres. The best lap of the race was by Evan Rice, a 1:38.457. And the last lap's fast time was a 1:42.003, also for Evan Rice. And if anyone wants a Jabo update, he's currently sitting in 7th. Just behind Zach Floyd. Less than a second to Zach Floyd, actually. Having a look at this here. Go on board the nose of Mr. Botello as he's trying to catch up to Floyd. Oh, Floyd runs a little bit wide in the carousel. Going to gather it back in for the exit, but that's definitely going to compromise his run. Justin doing very good just to keep on track, and Floyd's made another mistake. And Justin gets the move made very easily there now. That's going to be Jabo up into P6. This is after he started in 16th, so he's gained 10 positions since the start of the race. And as I said, on a road course, especially one like this where there's very limited passing opportunities, that is not an easy feat at all. As I think Evan Rice has just hit the pits. In fact, he has. He's driving in. He's going to go for his pit stop here to go to the end. Oh, and Justin's gone around. We've got to go see what's happened here because Justin has gone around. See if we can get a closer in shot. Maybe one from the side. Nope. Oh, the 28 of Zach Floyd just sent it into the corner. Just giving Justin a little bit of a tap there. Justin put it into the fence. Zach. Well done for Zach. He actually stopped and waited for Jabo to get turned back around and get going again. So good job by Zach to not let that affect the actual overall positions, although it did, as Thomas Harmon has gotten in front of these two now. But they get back onto racing, so that's going to be Jabo back into 7th again. Now these two are both going to be chasing down Thomas Harmon in that 38 car. The Javo's rear end is not looking at all pleased. And every lap that Zach Floyd is going to be behind him is going to be, just sitting there as a reminder of, you did this. As we're going to go back to focus on crashes, our leaders are in the pits. In fact, no, I think Christian Budd's actually still on track. But Hernandez and Waterworth are both in the pits. As here comes Zach Floyd into the pits now, following Justin Botello and Thomas Harmon. Colton Salick has taken over the second position now. And we have a flurry of pit stops going on at the moment. Jabo with a great stop in his box. Here's a 60 of Kyle Kraus now. He's got around the lap down car of Mark Pentecoff. And he's not pitting either. As Frank Isaacson, who was in 12th, has come into the pits. Good job by Frank Isaacson to be up in 12th. As now we see Justin Botello, he has been passed by both Kyle Kraus and Zach Floyd. Probably wanted to sit in the pits that little bit longer and get that rear end damage fixed. It's completely understandable, as now he gets around Kyle Kraus. He's going to start charging back towards Zach Floyd in that 28 car. Christian Budd and Colton Salick are both in the pits now. Josh Durham and Matt Horton are also in the pits, but I think Josh Durham is OUT out of the race. Looks like at some point we also lost Jonathan Bell. I didn't see where or how that happened. Same with Joshua Durham. But at the moment we're looking at Brandon Bennett. He's just recently gotten around the 78 car of Brian Pizzicami. And Brandon's actually not one that's pitted yet, so he's coming in this time now. Kyle Kraus in the 60 is another car who hasn't pitted. He's still sitting in 9th. As Brian Pizzicami goes along the front straight there. There's Zach Floyd and Thomas Harmon. Guys are 6th and 7th with Jabo just behind in 8th. So pretty much the top 8 are where they should be as far as post pit stop positions. Kyle Kraus, the cork in the bottle, sitting in 9th. And my software is saying that this is still going to be about a 36 lap race. We look at the stricken car of Chris Champeau, sitting behind Frank Isaacson at the moment. He's just recently come in for a pit stop. And unfortunately that is going to be as good as that car is going to look for the rest of the race. At least his engine will be getting plenty of fresh air. Here's Thomas Harmon in 6. He's got the 3 of Brian Harris in front of him, who is a lap down. Wisely gets out of the way for the faster drivers. And here comes Justin as well. He'll hopefully move out of the way for Justin as well. And there you go. Staying over towards what used to be Gilligan's Island. And here we go for a move. Zach Floyd trying to work his way to the outside to make it the inside of Thomas Harmon. It's not going to work for him this time. Kyle Kraus has finally gone into the pits. I think Colton Salick has actually had an issue here. And he has... Let's see what's unfolded here. Oh. Looks like he just straight up gave up. Oh. Here we go, we've got more of the story now. Going into turn 1. He cuts it a little bit too close into the inside wall. And that's just torpedoed him straight to the concrete there on the outside. Oh, solid hit. Put the car up onto 2 wheels. And then he says, "Screw you guys, I'm going home." And that is the way Colton Salick has ended his race. As it looks like Justin Vitello also back in the pits. In fact, he is out of the race as well. What was that about? I don't see anything going wrong here other than he's getting a little bit loose on entry to the carousel. Almost drifting it in. He could have saved that. It looks like he's just turned it straight right. And into the fence at full speed. And he's actually rolled it too. So we're starting to see maybe fatigue starting to affect our drivers a little bit here. It's a very mentally tiring track. As Evan Rice is in the lead of this race. How did we not see this before? He has taken the advantage of the undercut and he has pulled ahead of Christian Budd. Christian is now all over his tail. But Evan Rice still holding on to it for the moment. As they're drag racing down the back of the drag strip, they're coming out of the carousel. Who's going to take advantage into the hairpin at the end of the drag strip? Evan Rice actually carrying a little bit of damage there. Not sure how he received that, but he is still holding on to the lead. It's only on his left front. Could have been from a curb, could have been from just, lap traffic or maybe copying a wall somewhere. But he's not letting it affect his speed at the moment, as the battle for the lead is on in earnest. And here goes Christian for the big dive into the hairpin. Evan goes very deep trying to hold off, but it's not going to work. The inside line's just too strong. Evan getting a little bit loose coming out of the hairpin as well. That's going to be Christian Budd back into the lead now. So effectively we've only had 3 lead changes this... Actually no, 2 lead changes this whole race. That was Evan Rice getting around Christian Budd in the pit stop cycle and Christian Budd taking it back. 2 leaders, 2 lead changes. And that is all she wrote there for that one. Well, damn. I was expecting that to go for a little bit longer, in all honesty. And now we are looking at Andrew Perkins in the 73 car. He actually provided us with these camera angles. Currently sitting in 11th, just getting around the 3-car Brian Harris, who is a lap down still. Andrew is about a minute 20 off the lead of this race. As by the looks of things, we're going to have about 12 laps left to go when Christian gets to the start-finish line this time. In fact, he's just done, so we've got 12 laps left to go. But remember, that is a about figure, it's not an exact science. Software is saying that we've got about 36 laps left in this race. You can see on the positional ticker there at the top of your screen, it says 12, but it's got that squiggly line that says it's a guesstimation. As we go back to focusing on crashes now, we'll wait to see where we end up. And we're back on this age-old battle for third between Hernandez and Waterworth. These guys have been battling it out pretty much the whole race. Waterworth still just sitting right behind the 88 machine there. And before we were on the back bumper of the 88, so this time I reckon we take it from the front bumper of the 22 car. Now we can't move this camera around like we can the rear bumper camera. Just because the teams would not allow us to put in a movable camera in the front. They said it was going to be too much effect on their aerodynamics, which is completely understandable. Sounds like both these drivers getting down to first gear there for the first part of that hairpin, turn 3. Back down the first with a tight hairpin leading down into the carousel. There's second. Waiting on the throttle. Onto the brakes. Still in second. Jonathan running a little bit wide, but he cuts it back in. Jonathan with a bad run out of the carousel, actually. And we could have a move on here. As Waterworth goes to the inside of the 88 of Hernandez. Can he hold on to it? Yes, he can. So the battle that has been going on this entire race has now had something actually happen in it. Waterworth getting around Hernandez, and he's starting to pull away too. As we're starting to catch up to some of the lap traffic, being the 3 of Brian Harris and the 4 of Jaron Sanchez. Harris going into the pits. Hernandez trying to battle back on Waterworth. Not going to work for him in the hairpin. Definitely some frenetic action going on between these two this entire race. As we're going to go back to focusing on crashes. See where we end up this time. as Jonathan Hernandez has made a mistake. What? Sorry, I was replying to a message there. Completely missed what happened. They come out of the carousel and into the hairpin here at the end of the straight. There's no lockup. Oh, just too hard into the gas. Gets sideways. But now he has lost all the will to fight with Gary Waterworth, who is still sitting in third. He lost about 3 seconds there, which is not much, but it's a lot. It's not much when you consider it in terms of oval racing, but it's a lot when you can. It's a lot when you consider it in terms of oval racing, but not much when you consider it in terms of road racing. We see the 78 of Brian Pizzicami getting around the 3 of Brian Harris, who is 2 laps down. There's Evan Rice in second. Andrew Perkins still in 11th. But he could be under pressure from Kyle Kraus here shortly, so we're going to stick around with this. Just up the road there as well, Frank Isaacson in P10, the Autism Awareness number 24 car, the namesake of this race. And while we've got just about 10 laps to go, in fact we've got about 9 to go, we're going to go for a quick commercial break. We're going to come back and go straight to the end of this race, so make sure you stay tuned. And we are back at the Autism Awareness 100 here from the Sonoma Raceway. There's a look at the crowd in the main grandstand. Well, let's get back into the action on track. We're looking at the 24 Frank Isaacson, who has the 73 of Andrew Perkins and the 60 of Kyle Kraus behind him. This is the battle for 10th here, guys. And Frank Isaacson doing very well, holding on to the 10th position at the moment. Started in 13th, now is in 10th. Andrew Perkins actually started from 27th on the grid to BMP 11 right now. There's definitely no slouch. We have 12 cars on the lead lap, Kyle Kraus being the last of those. The first one a lap down is Travis Massier. 5 cars, 1 lap down being Massier, Sanchez, Bennett, Horton and Burgess. Got Harris 2 laps down, Penticuff and Champo 3 laps down. And unfortunately, Salick, Botello, Durham, Gary, Bell and Schleiss have all DNF'd from the race. And these guys are not safe either. Just a little bit behind Kyle Kraus, who has just fallen off away from these guys, is the leader Christian Budd, who actually has overtaken Kyle Kraus. is not having a fun race here at all at the moment. Not only has he been gone a lap down now, but he's fallen right back away from Perkins and Isaacson. As we're going to be close to about 6 laps left to run in this race when Christian Budd gets to the start-finish line here. These guys are not just battling for position, they're battling for the top 10. They're battling to stay on the lead lap. Christian Budd, our leader, is doing 141.325 on that last lap. The fast time for the previous lap was a 140 by Gary Waterworth. Just waiting to see what's going to transpire when everyone goes across the line this time. Quite a large gap between Zach Floyd and the cars behind him, being Sturgill and Pizzakemi. Yeah, 10 seconds there. So it looks like Andrew Perkins starting to fall off from Frank Isaacson here. His last lap was 0.6 slower than Frank. As we're going back to focusing on crashes now. And there is Brian Pizzakemi currently in P8. And he's trying to catch up to Michael Sturgill, who is sitting there in 7th. These guys will both be fairly happy with their results here. It's not top 5, but a top 10 at Sonoma. Not bad at all. As we're going to have about 5 laps left to run in this race. We're going to put it back on our leader, who has now started to catch up to Andrew Perkins in the 11th position, who has really fallen off the back of Frank Isaacson now. Andrew's going to stay wide to allow Christian Budd to come through. Now Christian Budd going to fight on towards Frank Isaacson here. He's got about 5 seconds between himself and Frank. Depending on where you are at the track at the moment, it's 7. At the moment, Christian Budd never in doubt for the win of this race. Ever since the start, he's just gone to the front and dominated. Evan Rice in 2nd. Gary Waterworth currently 3rd. Great result for Gary at the moment. In fact, we might have a battle on here for 2nd very shortly. Gary Waterworth right on the tail of Evan Rice. We only have about 4 laps left to run in this race. This is going to be an interesting little battle, so we're going to keep an eye on it here. Waterworth looking very strong on these older tyres. Waterworth actually with the fastest time for the last lap of 40.937, which was 0.7 better than Evan Rice on that last lap. Evan might have been saving his tyres a little bit just for in case this was going to happen. So we'll have to wait and see how he reacts to Waterworth being behind him here. Both these drivers catching up ever so slightly to Christian Budd as well. as it looks like Waterworth now getting the move made and taking second place away from Evan Rice. Evan ran a little bit wide there in that back section going around the end of the drag strip runoff area. And Waterworth is now going to start his charge towards our leader, Christian Budd, who will only have about 3 laps left to run in this race. There he is, just on the other side of the hairpin. We're going to jump on board the nose of Evan Rice here for a little bit. Gary Waterworth still the fastest on the last lap. 0.8 faster than Christian Budd that last lap. Christian Budd with the fastest lap of the race of 1:37.775. That's just about getting into the qualifying time region, so these guys have definitely been pushing it. Looks like Christian Budd dealing with Brian Harris again. Brian Harris staying out wide, not wanting to get in the way of the top three's battle. And we haven't checked in on Frank for a while, so let's go check in to see how Frank Isaacson is doing. And I clicked on the wrong car. This is the one I want. The Autism Awareness 24 of Frank Isaacson. Still holding on to the top 10 and still holding on to the lead lap position as well. If Christian was a sporting fellow, he would let Frank keep the top 10, but he's going to have to try and do it while staying in front of Waterworth. As we have about 2 laps left to run in this race, we're going to stay on with Christian Budd just in case it ends a little bit sooner. Because I'm not sure whether the time will expire and we'll get one more lap, or time will expire and that will be the last lap. So it's 2 or possibly 3 more laps. As you see Waterworth in the background, stepping a little bit sideways as he's trying to catch up to Christian Budd here. I think he's feeling very comfortable with the car and the way that it feels at the moment. And he is definitely showing us that he might be trying to challenge for the win here. We've only had 2 different leaders and 2 lead changes. So if he can battle up to Christian Budd and get a move made, this could be quite the special day here for Gary Waterworth in only his 2nd race here with the Output Racing League. Waterworth was faster than Christian Budd on the last lap by 1.3 seconds. So Waterworth definitely pouring on the pressure as we come around the hairpin for possibly the penultimate time. Christian Budd is going to have a fight on his hands. Waterworth is only 2 seconds behind. Now this is possibly the last lap of the race. We'll have to wait and see. Christian Budd still in control, sitting right on the tail of Frank Isaacson now. Frank staying wide. He's going to finally lose that lap that he was trying so hard to keep. Into the carousel. And time has expired. This is the 2nd last lap now. Waterworth lost a little bit of time there behind Isaacson. But he's got an extra lap to try and close in this gap on Bud and maybe try and take the lead away. Let's watch on board from the nose of Waterworth. He's definitely a lot faster than Bud at this point. Only half a second faster on the last lap, but still faster nonetheless. And I think we've lost Jonathan Hernandez. Oh, and Waterworth gets it sideways, gets it wrong in the hairpin. That's pretty much all just sewn it up as we get the white flag. Last lap, last chance to win it or wear it for Christian Bud. No, we got more time. What? Actually, no, we're all slowing down. That must be the end of the race. Or is it? I don't know what's going on here. I don't know if we're on the end of the race or not. Evan Rice is taken back second. They don't look like they're going too terribly fast. I think we are actually at the end of the race. The timing software doesn't know what it's doing. Christian Bud's celebrating a little bit, so I think we are at the end of the race here now. And Hernandez is still on track. He must have just blinked out for a little bit there. But congratulations, Christian Bud, surviving the Sonoma road course. Is he going to go to Gilligan's Island and do a bit of a burnout? No, he's going to do it right there before the hairpin. Very nice. Alright guys, so there is your winner. Christian Bud, Gary Waterworth in second, Evan Rice in P3. We're going to go to a quick commercial break here. When we come back, we'll have driver interviews, so make sure you stay tuned. and apparently the sound things were being stupid again. Yay! So that entire interview was missed. Great. Uh, damn it. Coming up next, we're going to talk to our second place getter because I'm not going to drag him back in for another interview again because I'm a fucking idiot. And that's my one for the broadcast. We're talking to today's second place getter, who was also today's Hard Charger Award winner. We're also going to be talking to the 22 car, 12 car on track, 22 in the standings of Mr. Gary Waterworth. Gary, second race with the league. You were just about to take the lead last week and got crashed out. This week, you came from seemingly nowhere to take out second place. Hard charger as well, even though you only gained 3 spots, but them's is the rules. How do you feel first and foremost?
Well, I'm super excited. I did enjoy the first race up until the last lap, and I did enjoy this whole race. It is my home track. I'm 45 minutes from it, so I did feel extra obligation to do well. But practice before really helped me out. Chopped about 2.5 seconds off of what I was running in A-Fix yesterday, and really focused on saving my tires as well to get around the 88 and Evan there towards the end.
Now let's talk about that final stint. Um, as I said, you came from what seemed like nowhere in those final few laps. You're battling it out with Hernandez. You guys were having a bit of a titanic struggle there. But once you finally got away from him, it was like you were just shot out of a cannon. What was it like for you? Not only pulling away from Jonathan in the late stages of the race, but catching and passing Evan to take away second.
Yeah, when I think I pitted on lap 18 or so, and I was hoping to short pit the 88 or Jonathan and hopefully get a quick lap in so I could get around him that way. But we ended up pitting at the same time by surprise, and I lost time on pit exit. But luckily, with me saving my tires and just watching them spin a little extra or burn it up going in, using a little too much brakes really helped me out there. And I was pretty surprised I ended up catching Evan because I know he's quite good at road courses as well.
All right, man. Now let's look forward to next week. We're going to the Chicagoland Speedway, a mile and a half track, fairly average kind of track for the mile and a halves. What's the feeling like for you going back to some oval racing next week and tackling Chicagoland?
Feeling pretty good. I do enjoy the mile and a half. I'm good at, although Michigan is 2 miles, I was good there. But I also like places like Old Texas and Chicago as well, and Las Vegas. Those type of mile and a half. So looking to have another good run there, and more clean racing to come.
All right, man. Well, before we let you go, anyone you want to give a quick shout out to here tonight?
Give a shout out to the Outrun guys. Shout out to Millie. Uh, Richie had Justice raid me. He ran Road to Pro earlier. And shout out to Corey and Corey has no life. That's you. Shout out to you.
Yes, that is me. Although I'm not an Outrunner esports streamer. But congratulations on not only second place but the Hard Charger Award as well, man. And we look forward to seeing what you can do again next week.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been a lot of fun. Look forward to it.
All right, guys. So that was the 22 in your standings, the 12 car on track of Mr. Gary Waterworth, and what a run that was for him. Coming up next, we're talking to today's winner, a man who hasn't really had a win too much recently, but he definitely got one today with a fairly dominating performance. We're, of course, talking to the 50 car of Mr. Christian Budd. Christian, first and foremost, welcome back to the booth. How are you feeling, man, after that dominating victory?
Yeah, finally everything came together in a race, which has kind of been the theme of this year. Really felt like there's probably should have been 2 or 3 at least other wins in there, and just circumstances and things happen that you can't control. And uh, today I felt pretty confident that if I was gonna mess it up, it was gonna be at my own mistake. So I was trying to be really smooth and just put down good laps and be clean with the car, and it all worked out.
Now, one of the big things about road racing is, saving your tires here. What was it like for you trying to manage holding on to the lead plus trying to save your tires in, what is fairly difficult conditions considering this track is normally just so slick?
Yeah, and I'm not. I know it looked different today because I led so many laps, but I don't really consider myself a particularly good road racer. I've always struggled with it, and I enjoy it. It's fun, but I've never been one guy who's been really fast at it or anything like that. And I didn't really know what the tires were going to do. There was a ton of fall off and everything, so I just kind of decided, okay, well, let's just not destroy them. Let's be as careful as we can. And I did that really well in the first stint. And two, getting the pole and being able to kind of get up front helps you with that too. And in the second stint, Evan kind of got out ahead of me a little bit, and then I had to push a little harder to get around him. And then probably hurt my tires a little bit doing that. Probably should have been a little bit more patient with it, but I wanted to go.
Now, we talked just a little bit before we started doing the interviews here, and what was it, the way that you were describing Gary coming through after he passed Hernandez? He wasn't even on your radar, and then boom, there he was. What was the feeling like for you seeing him charging in those last couple of laps and almost taking this long-awaited win away from you?
Yeah, I would say like mild panic, and because he hadn't really been. I don't want to say he hadn't been a factor. I just hadn't seen him. I knew Evan had been pretty much up there the whole time, and I haven't really paid much attention to who was behind Evan because I just didn't really see a challenge there. And Evan was falling back a little bit for me late, so as I was coming up in the lap cars, I was really just trying to be, just hell, okay, don't just throw it away and wreck a guy and destroy your car, for nothing. And then I looked down with two to go, and oh, that's not the same name I've been seeing. That's not Evan. That's Gary. And okay, he's at the 2 second mark now, and okay, I better pick up the pace a little bit here. And I don't know how much he had on me really. I was kind of trying to save a little bit at the end. I just really not save tires, but just be careful. So I don't know if I had picked up the pace if it would have been different or not. It's hard to tell.
All right, man. Now, looking forward to next week. Heading back to the ovals with the mile and a half at Chicagoland. What's the feeling like for you going back into Chicagoland?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure if I do. To be honest with you, I just don't really enjoy that package. I feel like even races like today, you can showcase what you can do behind the wheel, and with these high downforce races, it's not really something I really enjoy too much. So really, the one that's next on me is New Hampshire, and we'll get some low downforce and some more horsepower, and feel like that's the one I'm really looking forward to. Some of these next ones are just going to be a little different. After Chicago, you got Pocono and Indy, and there's some different style tracks coming up. We'll see. We'll see what happens there.
All right, man. Well, congratulations on your long-awaited win again. Anyone you want to give a quick shout out to before we let you go here today?
Yeah, just the whole Output Racing League. I mean, I'll say this. I know a lot of guys don't look forward to road racing. They don't feel like they're really good at it, but everybody's so courteous on the track today, and they're always putting their best foot forward, and it's really good to see. And it's a really good group of guys here, and anybody who's looking for league racing, this is a place. It's just a good group. So proud to be part of that. Of course, always you for doing these broadcasts. They're always fun to watch. Really awesome. And our sponsor. I'm never good. Who's our sponsor this week?
Autism Awareness. So it's Frank sponsoring today.
Well, thanks, Frank, for doing that. And obviously a great cause there. So shout out to him too, and Autism Awareness for sure.
All right, man. Well, congratulations on your win, and we look forward to seeing what you can do again next week.
Thanks, man.
All right, guys. So that was today's winner, the 50 of Christian Budd, and gonna have a special treat for you. even though I don't think he really wants to have a chat to us, we're going to force him to have a chat to us. Hey, Frank, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Hi, Frank. Welcome to the broadcast booth. Not a place where we're usually accustomed to seeing you, but we thought since you're today's sponsor and because it is such an important sponsorship that you bring to us here today, we get you in to talk a little bit about your experiences with autism and what the autism awareness thing is all about. So please go ahead.
Well, like I said before, I have a 4-year-old that's autistic, and it's good to raise awareness and just let people know that it's not as much of a stigma as people think.
And Frank, you had quite a good race here today as well, finishing in the top 10 in what is probably one of the more difficult races we're going to have this season. So definitely a good run for you. How was the car feeling today, the Autism Awareness number 24 car?
Well, it's definitely different than last year. I ran 5 seconds faster last year, but that's just the new car and new tires. But yeah, it felt good. This is actually my home track, so I got to do good.
Yeah, we've been hearing that a lot with the home track. Of course, this is a Western-based league, so for a lot of people, this is the home track. But definitely a special one here for you today, Frank, finishing in the top 10.
Yeah, I live in Northern California now, but I grew up 30 miles from this track, so yeah, very familiar with it. And I'm still not as fast as half of these guys, but top 10 is good for.
All right, next week, Frank, we're going on to Chicagoland. So what's the feeling like for you heading back into the mile and a half tracks?
Well, you'll see me right in mid-pack where I usually am.
All right, well, thank you very much for your time, Frank, and we look forward to seeing you again next week. And we look forward to seeing another awesome paint job because your paints are always some of the best that we see on track.
Thank you very much. It's a labor of love.
All right, guys, so that's Frank Isaacson, the 24 car, today's sponsor and today's 10th place getter. I just had to bring him into the chat. We just had to get him on the broadcast. So luckily we did that. But that is going to end off the broadcast here today, guys. Thank you all for coming out. It's been quite the incredible race. And until next week at Chicagoland, make sure you stay safe out there, and we'll see you guys all next week. Same bat time, same bat channel.